Today I'm joined with Joe Norris from Getyourtipsout. And today's podcast episode is about why did we create the UK Sports Betting Tips podcast?
Yep, so we created this to really educate the punter more because this day and age I feel like anyone can sort of just chuck a tip up on social media, but you need to have that reasoning behind it. The person following that tip needs to almost understand your brain and why you've chosen that horse and why you're confident that horse is going to win.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, you sometimes, if you throw up a nap of the day and it gets beat, you'll get quite a bit of criticism. But I think it's good for people to understand if you are a punter and you are looking to say, okay, Joe Norris, I want to follow your daily double or the nap of the day.
Yeah.
But obviously, giving a little bit of context of why you think that this is your best selection. Is there anything you can talk about here about what sometimes influences your daily tips? Like, it could be the ground conditions, or what is it that kind of influences how you choose your horse racing tips specifically?
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of factors. We can't really go into it in depth because each situation is different. One of the key things I would say is I'm obviously lucky enough that I get to watch every race every day. And I feel like that is an edge that I have over a lot of people because obviously time constraints with a lot of people. Um, so you can almost, you can see the stats in black and white where, it's proven in heavy ground, but then heavy ground, there's all different types of heavy ground. There's heavy ground when it's just rained and they're getting through it better. It can be like we've had a lot of rain for a couple of weeks. It's dried out a bit, but it's sticky, but that's still heavy ground. Little things like that make huge differences to certain horses. And I think that's the difference when I'm putting up a tip. I want to try and get that explanation across to the punter. Whereas if they're just looking on at the races or, looking at the comments or the spotlight on Racing Post, you're never going to get that sort of information.
Do you have then, if you're watching every single horse race every single day, do you have quite a lot that go into the notebook, like a fast finishing third place, let's say? Like
Yeah.
some that, for me, I might do on a Saturday. I only really watch racing on a Saturday. Occasionally, I might
Yeah.
watch the bigger races, but you must have a lot in that notebook for like, okay, I'm going to mark this down for next time it runs.
Without a doubt. I used to be horrendous with it on the flat. It was just too much to. It's because you got to remember it's not just when you're inputting them into the notebook. You then have to maintain that notebook, and if you don't update that for say even a week, it becomes a hell of a lot of work. So while I do still use a tracker, I don't put too many in there now. It has to be something really specific for me to put in there. But it definitely still helps because obviously it nudges your brain on certain things. And it's good. It's good to have notes stored. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously on the UK Sports Betting Tips podcast, we're going to try to get one or two other guests on and we can interview them. It could even be trainers, it could be jockeys, what they're most excited about riding at the weekend and stuff like that. But just moving over to football betting tips as well, because this isn't just for horse racing. Obviously, we're going to do darts and football as well. So with
Yeah.
regard to the football betting tips, like, is there anything on there of what you're going to be doing where we're going to be asking you specific? Let's say you're doing like an over 2.5 goals tips ACCA.
Yeah.
Why you might be thinking, okay, I think there's going to be goals in this game. Is there anything that influences that, like team news or anything?
But again, with football, like I think the more games you watch, the better informed you are. What I would say about football is definitely more stats based. Like a lot of our um, assumptions are based on stats. But I mean, there's a lot of things that influence it. Again, like the team news is obviously huge. You could have Chelsea play at the weekend, be a really open game, and then they play in midweek in Europe, and then put out a different team, and it's a completely different scenario. So there's a lot of factors with football, but I would say it's more stats based than racing. I think with racing, you can rely on your eye a lot more than with football.
Yeah, for sure. And then obviously there's going to be one or two other sports like the darts now seems to be growing at a rate of knots. You've got
Yeah.
quite a lot of followers now that are asking you, come on, Joe, give us who you think
Yeah,
is
it's
going to win.
massive. Yeah.
So are we going to be doing podcast episodes on the darts betting as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like you said, where the demand is, that's what we do. So obviously, the key sports that I've always watched, racing is number one, then football, and then I'd say darts and tennis are probably joint in third. So that's where we're going to be basing a lot of our tips to start with.
Yeah, for sure. So anyone who's watching this now or listening to this, the podcast series is going to be called UK Sports Betting Tips Podcast. Make certain you subscribe. There's lots of different platforms like Amazon Music or Spotify or SoundCloud of what it will be on. There's Apple Podcasts as well that it'll be on. I'm going to be trying to rattle and dig deep into why Joe's chose certain selections in his nap of the day. I'm also going to be digging deep and trying to get some great kind of other guests on, and we can ask them specific questions, especially for anti-post bets. So make sure you subscribe. Like again, it is UK Sports Betting Tips Podcast.